Welcome, viewers. This is CNY Matters with Angi Renna. I'm Angi Renna, New York State Senate candidate for the 50th District. We are airing our first podcast, which will be aired weekly on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. So I hope that you will join us as we launch the follow-up podcast from here. I will be bringing in special guests most weeks and discuss the current matters affecting Central New York. I look to you, our viewers, to share and send in questions so that we can continue to talk about the issues that matter most to you. You can email me those questions at info@angiforsenate.com, or you can send by Facebook message to Angi for Senate. You can also follow, share, like at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those social media outlets. I hope that you'll keep in touch with us. We will include all the information below in the description box. So today I am so excited to kick off our first episode with Nikki Polos from Aspen Athletic Club, a small family-owned and operated business in Onondaga County that employs over 160 of our neighbors in 4 locations. And they provide affordable fitness to thousands of our county residents, allowing the opportunity for them to maintain their health and mental wellness. And we know that that's very important right now during COVID. So many of our small businesses have been affected, and the governor has continued to keep our gyms and fitness centers closed through phase 4, citing concerns of rising cases in other states. Welcome to the show, Nikki.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Can we first start off with you telling everyone what it's been like to be closed all of these months as a small business owner, and you have tremendously high overhead, and I would like for you to share that as well. But also, how are your employees managing through this? What's going on with your members? If you can give us just a little overview of what you're hearing and feeling and seeing right now.
We are locally owned and operated. My husband and I started Aspen almost 17 years ago now. And we're not a franchise or a large corporation. Not that any business, large or small, can plan for a pandemic like this. And no business can be closed this long without irreparable damages. When we were shut down, my immediate thought was my employees. Being a small business and having 160 employees counting on me for their livelihood, they were my first concern. And we assisted them with the unemployment opportunities that were available. We knew we could not carry our payroll. Our payroll ran about $100,000 a month. So that was our first concern. Once my employees were taken care of, members were my very next concern. Being shut down and having a stay-at-home order, I knew that my members were going to need exercise for their mental and physical well-being. So Facebook was the fastest and most economical way to get virtual workouts to my members. Fitness is my passion, not technology. And this pandemic has showed me my weaknesses very, very much. But the private member Facebook group has been phenomenal. We have over 500 workouts, from written workouts people can do on their own to actual classes that they can participate with on their own schedule. And every single day since March 18th, we've been providing that opportunity. I personally, without employees, I've been trying to communicate with my members from day one. I keep saying communication and kindness is key through this. And just like every business is in disarray, every household is going through this pandemic. So I've been personally answering phone calls, responding to emails, making sure that my members have the information that they need, have the questions answered that they need, and can process any membership status changes that they need. It's very hard being a business owner who prides myself in communication to not have any information to parlay. So I do have staff and members upset with my lack of communication when it is no fault of any small business owner. And throughout this whole process, we are waiting on press conferences to get our information.
That's been really crucial. I know that there are people that are very happy about the governor's press conferences daily and others that are not. But really, at the end of the day, when we have only one person making decisions for all of us, we really are reliant on those press conferences to know on a daily basis are we putting food on the table or not for our family when we own a small business? And that's been a struggle that I've heard, from you as well as from some other small business owners with regard to lack of guidance and lack of leadership in that area. I think he probably had an idea that he wasn't going to open gyms and the malls and the movie theaters at the phase 4 opening date. That information would have been very helpful had that been released a few days earlier even. The day of. So a lot of frustration from people with regard to that. And now from what you're saying, that lack of guidance has been, a pressure point for you with your members, and the fact that you're not able to tell them. You have no information to give them as to when you're going to be able to reopen, and that's the struggle.
Exactly. And I think it's important to note that it's not a political opinion that one man is making every single decision. It is fact. And he is the only person. He has pandemic power that negates any other elected official from weighing in on anything.
That's exactly right. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So if we look back to before the phases were even announced, health clubs are part of the federal guidelines for phase 1 of reopening. So in addition to the virtual workouts I was providing and tailoring to my members and their needs, as soon as I heard that, I put a proposal together. I went through being in the fitness industry for 20 years and having gone through the swine flu pandemic. I had a lot of ideas and a lot of ways to keep my members and my employees safe. So I put a proposal together and submitted it to the county and the state May 1st with no other indication that I was not going to be part of phase 1. I went to work. I put in the time, I put in the money, and I did the upgrades that the CDC had required and that I had put in my proposal for a safe COVID-conscious reopening in phase 1. My facilities were ready on May 10th. May 16th came and went, and we were not even talked about. So I held tight. I kept working for my staff and for my members and trying to push through. When phase 2 was announced and it was professional services, I know without a shadow of a doubt that health and fitness is a professional service. My degrees and my national certifications and the certifications all my staff hold prove that to be a professional service. But that is when we were explicitly excluded. The verbiage in every NASA's code related to health and fitness excluded fitness centers, exercise classes, CrossFit, personal training, and gyms from reopening in any capacity except for providing virtual workouts. We moved into phase 3 with personal care. And I had about 10 seconds of hope, here it is, we're ready. We've been ready since May 10th, but here's phase 3, we're gonna go. And again, we were specifically excluded. And as every other industry experienced, it wasn't, you were at the edge of your seat. Are we going to get this blessing to operate our business? And, look at hairstylists in phase 2. Thursday night, it was a hard no from Governor Cuomo. And then Friday at 1:00 in the afternoon, he announced, oh yeah, you can open now, but you have all these, requirements above and beyond medical professionals, but at least they got an opportunity to open. Same thing with dental offices. They were a no, and then it was a Sunday afternoon that he announced they could open on Monday morning, which when you think about it, it's not fair, not only to the business owner, but to the community. Because if you're announcing at 3:45 on a Sunday afternoon that dental offices can open, you're putting the community at risk, because some dental offices probably opened with those COVID conscious protocols in place because they were ready and they had the funds and the expertise. Some didn't open because they didn't have it was Sunday at 3. They didn't have time to get ready, but some probably opened because they had to, but they didn't have the lead up time to do so safely. With being excluded from phase 3, that is when I had exhausted talking to elected officials. I had exhausted talking to Onondaga County. I had exhausted everything. So that's when I retained an attorney to possibly use that avenue to get some of my freedom back, to get permission to operate the business I'd been operating for 17 years. I did hold tight. I did not, I stayed patient, hoping that we were going to get permission for phase 4. And, June 2026 rolled around and we were specifically excluded once again. Every code that's related to health and fitness has a sentence in it that says gyms, fitness centers, exercise classes, personal training, and CrossFit remain closed. We were given the opportunity to provide outdoor workouts on July 6th. Cue the, how many days of 95-degree weather and an insane heat index warning. We're still, and, June 26th was 3.5 weeks ago. I mean, we are, if there was a phase 5, that would have started 10 days ago.
Yeah.
Those 2-week increments. Like,
well, there really are 10 phases. They're just not disclosed 10 phases. So don't let anybody fool you. And, I think he got, that got called out a little bit. So now we're just in phase 4, but changing phase 4 as we go along, but they're really undisclosed phases. So can you tell us a little bit about the lawsuit? Is anyone joining you on the lawsuit that you filed, or are you doing it on your own?
Yeah. So again, I had looked for an attorney, honestly, here in the county, and no one would touch a case. I did find my attorney. We did not move forward because we were hoping the phases and the direction that we were getting, we were going to be allowed to reopen. When we were excluded from phase 4 is when he filed the lawsuit. So I believe it was Monday, the 29th of June. So it is our lawsuit in the county, Onondaga County. If people look back to when these phases started and what Governor Cuomo told us is that the counties were going to be almost like little individual areas, and we were going to be able to make decisions as Onondaga County based on our numbers, based on our economy and what is best for us. And I was beyond thrilled because we know the state is not always run with Onondaga County in mind. It is run downstate in mind. So when I heard Cuomo say that back in April, May, I was ecstatic. I was like,
yeah. That was a positive statement, and it did give us a lot of hope that we were going to be able to do things that were right for our area, because we didn't have the numbers that downstate had. We were under control very quickly, and so certainly should be able to make the decisions here regionally.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that he said that gave me such hope, especially for my industry. Not only were counties going to have power and control and be able to guide us, but he was very, very vocal about not wanting people to travel. We didn't want to draw people into areas.
Correct.
Of any business that is currently open, my business is a member-based business. We are private, and our patrons live or work within a 5 to 10 mile radius of our facility. So when he said that, I'm like, oh, fantastic. Health clubs are the perfect business. We provide health and wellness opportunities. We help people with their lung function, their obesity, keeping their weight in check. We help control negative emotions with all the stress and anxiety that goes along with the pandemic and all the increased anger and fear. So all of these things, I was like, yes, we are ready to go. We have to flatten the curve, which Onondaga County did a phenomenal job with. Okay, we have to increase testing. Onondaga County did a phenomenal job with. We need a percentage of low positive tests. We're doing phenomenal, but our county isn't allowed anything. We're at the mercy of Governor Cuomo.
That's right. And you did leave out one other thing that we're doing really well that fits right into your business model, which is contact tracing.
Yes.
And when you have a membership organization like yours, it's so easy to do contact tracing if there was an incidence of a case or an outbreak. And so I think that's really important as well. I know that there's a lot of pushback with gyms that I have been hearing with regard to confined spaces and overexertion.
So the one thing about confined space that I have been saying from day one, I did not know the government's job was to say that health and wellness is the cesspool of the world and we're unsafe and we're unhealthy. I have an occupancy permit that has allowed me to operate my business. Why phase 1, if you have a valid occupancy permit and you can meet these guidelines, make the guidelines strict, make them
Right.
strict.
But give us something.
Give us something. So every business with a valid, instead of like, oh, this is essential, oh, this is safe, oh, this is important, and this isn't, Governor Cuomo gets to decide what we do and when we do it. Instead of every business with a valid occupancy permit meet these COVID conscious guidelines that are going to keep your patrons, your customers and your staff safe, and you can operate at a 10% occupancy. Okay, our numbers are good. We all move to 20%. Our numbers get bad. Okay, let's halt at 20%. Let's get it under control. Let's make sure. But my facility, when people talk about, oh, confined spaces, I'm 30,000 square feet. The club I'm sitting in right now in Cicero is 30,000 square feet. So I'm the size of a Target, and there's hundreds of people at Target right now. I go to Wegmans and I'm rubbing shoulders with everybody.
Absolutely. And you offer a wide range of services that there could have been a rollout of what was approved and what would have needed to be restricted just so that you could actually operate. Yoga, bring your own mat. We can socially distance in a 30,000 square foot facility and provide yoga classes indoors. We don't need to be outdoors necessarily for that. That's not requiring, sweat and tears going in every different direction as they would like people to think. One-on-one personal training. That was something I went to the county on a weekly basis asking for that regularly, and we could not get an answer from the state. We could not get an answer from the governor. Why were gyms not allowed to do one-on-one personal training where you can limit who's actually in the gym and who's surrounded? It gives a revenue source for your type of small business, and that I think was all that many gyms were asking for, that they could not do any kind of rollout guidance for, when I think that was the biggest shame.
I would love to have a conversation and overcome these objections, because I truly believe that I can. If someone really wants to look at occupancy, let's limit the occupancy, but let me open my business. Yeah. Let's put these safety measures in place. When it comes to, I hear all the time, oh, well, you can exercise at home. Well, you can also drink a beer at home, but bars are open, and you can eat at home, but restaurants are open. And, you really don't need that new backsplash in your kitchen, but Home Depot is open. So
I think those are
not, yeah, so who gets to decide what is important and what is not? I have talked to members who are battling mental health issues and they are not able to exercise. I've talked to members who live alone. A shutdown for someone who lives alone takes away any human interaction. Even if they don't socially distanced, when you are in a gym facility, you are around people.
You're still around people. That's your social element.
That's your social element. I've talked to people with eating disorders who are now not having exercise as an outlet to help maintain their recovery. I've talked to so many people. The COVID, there's many studies that I think it's like 76% of Americans have gained weight through this pandemic.
Can I ask you, can you tell me how much have you spent in upgrades? What have you done to get the gym ready for people to come in?
So some of the upgrades and some of the safety precautions we had rolled out back in February. Again, mentioning that we've been in business so long, we were a functioning health club through swine flu. So we upgraded to a medical grade cleaner. We doubled the cleaning stations that we had. We increased, so our employees were cleaning every hour, which in 30,000 square feet is nonstop. We put every other cardio machine out of use, but we have 100 pieces of cardio. So putting it out of use still allowed people to maintain their health and wellness. Now, added things that we've done, we have placed plexiglass around our front desk. We're upgrading our back office computer system, but our check-in system has always been touchless. So members scan themselves in, they walk in, they don't have to be handed anything, they don't have to touch any of my employees. We put directional arrows and signage throughout the facility, just helping the flow of traffic so that no one is going up and down the same aisle at the same time. It's one way. Our aisles are ridiculously spacious, especially compared to the big box stores that are open and have never had to close.
Absolutely.
We retrofit our drinking fountains to bottle filling stations only. One bottle filling drinking fountain is $1,600, just one. I have 4 facilities. We retrofit our sinks to be touchless, our urinals to be touchless. We did, as you mentioned, we took out all of our mats. We took out all of our magazine racks, more that communal stuff that isn't as easy to clean. Right. We did, when the malls were allowed to open, with the more dense filters that mall HVAC units need. Walmarts don't for some reason, but malls do.
We don't know why that is, but that's fine.
And again, if that's the rule, I
mean, with the data, it doesn't seem like the data is really supporting it when you're allowing, all these big box businesses to operate without that filtration system, but then you're imposing it on small business. But
and think back though to February and March. HVAC systems, heating and air conditioning go through the same ductwork. It wasn't an issue back then, but now it is with our HVAC. But I did purchase those filters right when Cuomo made that press conference. I found them, I ordered them. I was afraid they were going to be out of stock, or they were, obviously the price is going to go up very high. But again, those filters alone was $1,400 just for the filters that malls need. I got for my facility. So the expense is enormous. And I've invested that, but I'm still denied the opportunity to open in any capacity.
And you mentioned, Klein, that you had submitted your plan for reopening very early on in May, ahead of most people. And I'm assuming you submitted that to the county?
Yes, yep, I submitted it to the county and they passed it along to the state. And as I mentioned, my clubs were ready on May 10th. So right now I'm at my Cicero location and it has been like a museum since May 10th. Everything before each phase, I've cleaned it from top to bottom, and then now it just sits getting dusty with all the signage up.
What's the outcome that you're hoping for with the lawsuit?
My goal is to have the executive order lifted so that my business is given the same opportunity that other businesses are. I am not asking to recklessly reopen and pretend that COVID doesn't exist. This is a different world than it was prior to COVID, and I understand that. But my lawsuit's main and honestly only goal is to be given the same opportunity to operate my business with strict guidelines in place. Another thing we mentioned about how with these very late announcements of who can open and when they can open, and like everyone's then running to get everything in place because, we were told last night we can open today, let's throw things together. There are fitness facilities that are operating outside of what executive orders are allowed. And I've always minded my business and focused on my business. So that's, as a business owner, I'm not judging them for what they've had to do. But as a citizen, they're operating without guidelines in place because Cuomo can't effectively reopen the state or our county. He is putting us at greater risk because there's no communication. Tell us, okay, August 1st, gyms can open. Give us guidelines. I've had a couple of politicians tell me, well, just because your gym is clean and spacious and can meet this guidelines doesn't mean all gyms can. But guess what? That's not the government's job to decide. The government give me the guidelines. And just like with restaurants, if you can't meet the guidelines, don't open.
Absolutely.
If you can meet the guidelines, open. But there should be
like restaurants and bars, there are people out there that are inspecting and sending up information when they're not following the rules. And I'm sure that's going to happen with gyms too, if they're not operating underneath.
I hope that happens with big box stores and grocery stores as well. Because again, COVID doesn't know what walls you are in.
I agree. So with the lawsuit, your primary outcome that you're looking for is to just lift the executive order and allow you to open. Yes. If that doesn't happen, then what are you facing?
There is a second part to my lawsuit that if the government intends to keep my business shuttered indefinitely for some perceived risk to the community at absolutely no fault of my own, then we are looking for just compensation. We have built this business over 17 years. As you mentioned, we have employees that want a job to come back to. We have members who want an affordable fitness solution to come back to. And 127 days is a ridiculous amount of time, and to have no end in sight. I'm taking day by day to keep my head in the game and to keep my spirits up. But he has pandemic power until April of 2021.
That's a real problem, and the legislators need to get back to Albany to reassess that decision. They're the only ones that can pull that back now, and that's too far. They should have done a 90-day.
I think every elected official and every citizen needs to ask, why was he given pandemic power for over a year?
Yeah.
And if you don't exercise in a gym, if you have never plan on exercising in a gym, what happens when it's your business? What happens when it's your employer? What happens when it's something that you care about that he's going to decide you can't do anymore? Right now, he doesn't need, there are no checks and balances. He doesn't need any reason. He doesn't need any votes.
He's got all the reason in the world, which is COVID. And unfortunately, he's relying on the fact that there are increased case numbers in other states. But honestly, here in New York, we have been going down. We're at the lowest that we've been since March. So our numbers have not gone up as we've reopened. We've reopened to phase 4 for most businesses.
And there is no correlation to health clubs and those numbers. There has been none. There have been numerous studies, both here and in other countries, where health clubs, people making the decision. Opening health clubs in New York would not force anyone to go to a health club. It would just give people the opportunity to decide. And the people who decide to go to a health club are doing so to look better, feel better, and be healthier. There is not another business with that intention. When you go to Target, you might be looking for something amazing, but you're not going there to necessarily be healthy. Right. So when people say, oh, well, the other states, well, what is keeping health clubs closed? When you look at the other states, it's probably more, I could speculate, and I don't want to slam other industries, but it definitely is other industries. When you look at, when bars were allowed to open, no offense whatsoever, but once alcohol is introduced to any situation, choices are changed. Social distancing is much, much harder to instill. So I would love for someone to explain to me how anything alcohol related is safer than a socially distanced, spacious, clean, COVID conscious health club.
Yeah, and I think the point is not so much that this business over that business, is that just looking at your business model, it's a very regimented business model. People are scanning in, you know exactly who's there. I read your guidelines. You're not going to allow guest passes, which I think is the right thing to do. You're spacing out machinery. Before COVID, machines were spaced out. People were spaced out in their group fitness classes, and that would just be spaced out much further. But it's pretty regimented. So you can really protect people's personal spaces in your environment much easier and much more socially acceptable than in the grocery stores or the restaurants or the bars. So I agree with you, not to pick on any industries, but when you look at the business model, it's very easy to do that.
And it's interesting because, again, the lawsuit I filed is strictly based on the discrimination against an industry. And if you take everything else off of the table, to be denied the opportunity to conduct my business, that should be the merit of its own. And I feel that we should win that because, again, why the government issued me an occupancy permit, and now because of COVID, that's not valid anymore, yet they get to pick and choose what is. Like, it doesn't make sense to me on a legal basis, on a constitutional basis, on a freedom basis. Then if you want to argue the validity of whether I'm dangerous or how I can keep people safe, I feel like I could win on that case too, but that's not what our case is about. Like, I can argue in public opinion, I can present, my guidelines, But truly the lawsuit is about the ability or lack of ability that the government is putting on me versus other industries.
Right. Okay, so let me just, we're gonna wrap up, but I wanna remind everybody you're listening to CNY Matters with Angi Renna. We're discussing important issues within our Central New York community. Today we're with Nikki Polos from Aspen Athletic Clubs, and we're talking about the inability for her industry to open up due to the executive orders placed by Governor Andrew Cuomo. And Nikki, where can people go to help you and help support your cause and get more information about Aspen?
Yeah, so aspenfit.com is our website, and we have been communicating with members through there. We have social media platforms on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, I believe.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you joining us, and I do implore everyone out there to stay patient with our small businesses that are dying to reopen, and to no fault of their own, they just cannot. So we have to continue to support them and be patient. They will reopen someday. I'm sure of it, but some are taking longer than others. So I hope that everyone will remember our small business owners as they begin their reopening process. Thank you so much. And we're hoping for the best, Nikki, for you, for your family, for your business, the success of your business. And anybody that's out there that needs to connect with Nikki, you can reach out to me at info@angieforsenate.com. And we just want you to like, follow, share. We need to push these stories forward. We need everyone to really understand the pain and the hardship that our small business owners are going through still today, and then rally around them. We can't sometimes do it through normal channels, so we have to do it through grassroots efforts sometimes, and really rally around each other in a community effort to support. So I hope that all of our viewers will remember that and do that. Remember to join us weekly, Tuesdays at 7 o'clock, CNY Matters with Angi Renna. Again, you can email your questions, concerns, issues that you want us to talk about at info@angieforsenate.com. Thank you again, Nikki. All the best to you guys. And yep, you're welcome. It was a pleasure to have you. For now, have a beautiful day in CNY. Stay safe.